Check, check, quick sound check. Can everybody hear us loud and clear? What's going on, Coach Paul?
I can hear you loud and clear, Coach Jay. How are you doing today?
Doing good, doing good. Wild day out there in the markets for sure. Made it out alive, which is all we can kind of hope for on days like today. But decent day. How was yours?
I feel like I rustled a bear. Um, we came to a draw, but so I feel good.
Good, good.
Um, but wow, what can I say? Every market was a bit violent,
Yes, it was.
but I didn't even check gold. I was too busy.
So I was supposed to buy gold last night actually with Dakota on slow
Uh,
markets. We'll talk about it, but it went up. Um,
Is
welcome.
your is
Go
your
ahead.
market button broken?
No, so I actually picked out, high of the 30-minute opening range. It looked like it was going to go without me. So, I decided to cancel the bid when it looked like it was going to go. Checked the market like 2 hours later. It came right back to my price and went without me. Uh, had to go into next play mode like we talked about and say, you know what, that's one that I didn't get. It is what it is,
Yeah,
and I will move on. But
good
yeah, it turned out to
stuff.
be a pretty good trade. I haven't looked at the chart in a little while, but it looked good to start.
All right. Well,
Welcome everyone to At the Buzzer, our market recap. If this is your first time here, I am Coach Jay. That is Coach Paul. The goal of this segment is to review what happened in the markets for the day. We may talk about some markets that you have not traded before, but we believe our goal as traders is to identify opportunity, see how we could have taken advantage of those opportunities while managing our risk. If this is our first time meeting, I'm Coach Jay, been a Topstep Performance Coach since June of 2023. Been trading for the past 12 years and in the futures markets for the past 5. And that is Coach Paul. Coach Paul, go ahead and introduce yourself.
yeah, I'm Coach Paul. I've been with Topstep since May of 2023. I've been involved in the futures industry for 40 years, trading the last 25. I'm here to share some of my experiences and wisdom and help you become a better trader.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Coach. Let's look at the news. We did have some planned news out today. Today is Thursday. So, of course, we had the U.S. initial jobless claims came in a little bit lower than expected 213,000. What was forecast was 220,000. We also had a Canadian PPI number come in a little higher than expected. Existing home sales pretty much in line 3.96 million. What was forecast was 3.95. But I don't think that's the news that gave us the volatility that we saw today. Uh,
No,
that news was unplanned. A lot of the volatility that we saw early on was due to escalations between Ukraine and Russia, and headlines of Russia attacking Ukraine. I think there was some discussion about what type of missile it was that was used to attack Ukraine. Um, Coach, we talked a little bit about some of these headlines coming out prior to the market open, and it seems like it's a consistent thing, at least over the past couple of days, right? I think the last 2 or 3 days we've seen some of that news come out, give us some negative headlines. We see some selling early on in the session, and then a nice bounce from it. The best I could categorize that is uncertainty, right? We don't know when a headline like that is going to drop. How do you trade during times like that?
well, two things you can do if you're trading equities: pare down. Mm, it's becoming more volatile in the first half an hour than it's been in a while. Um, these little headlines come mysteriously. I don't think so mysteriously right at the open, and we get a violent move. So if in volatility you need to pare down by your size. The first what was the first half hour was what 200 points in the
In the
Nasdaq.
Nasdaq, yeah, pretty crazy.
Okay, on a one lot, that's $8,000 or no, $4,000. 4,000 on a one lot.
Yeah.
Um, so do the math in the shorter time frames. That's what I mean by paring down. S&Ps too. They were swinging at $1,000 and a half an hour or
Yeah,
more.
that was pretty. The S&P almost looked like the Nasdaq today early on.
Yeah. Um, Me, I'm trading one micro in either of them, and there's plenty. It was plenty.
Yep.
Because it's violent on both sides. There's so two things. So you could trade something less volatile.
Yeah.
I
100%.
still love my micro Bitcoin,
What a
not
market.
because I'm a bit head. It's just its volatility fits trading one and two lots. That's another thing you can do. You can change to a different trade something different. That's what's great about futures.
Yeah, you can
It's
move around in different markets that may not be affected by some of that volatility. We haven't really been talking about the agricultural markets recently, but I wonder what they did on a day like today, where everything was, expanded ranges and higher volatility. Uh, to look at the top percentage movers on the day, there are about 35 different contracts that 35 different markets we can trade with Top Step accounts. Uh, to the downside today, talking about ags, we had soybeans down 0.98%, copper down 1.07%, and soybean oil, our biggest percentage mover to the downside, at 2.35%. To the upside, we had crude oil up 1.96%, micro Bitcoin up 4.06%, and nat gas, our biggest percentage mover to the upside, at 5.2%. To round out our big four, we already talked about crude. We have gold up 0.79%. The S&P's up 0.49% and the Nasdaq up 0.22% to round out our big four. Uh, Coach, I came into the day, and I think I even said it in the YouTube chat. If you guys ever go back and watch the replay, you'll see a message from me that says 21K on the way. I was wrong.
but
I was wrong.
first,
I was wrong. And that is why, constant reminder that my opinion does not matter, right? Why I thought 21K coming into the Nasdaq. We have this monthly VWAP pinch. We have uh, the weekly VWAP. We kind of broke out of it. Looked like there was some buying momentum. Did know that there was these headlines coming out between Russia and Ukraine, and got a pretty quick sell-off. The one thing I think I've gotten better at is, although I might have an opinion about where something goes, I don't always act on that opinion, and I'm very happy I didn't do that today. Uh, Going to kind of ignore the overnight session. I was on slow markets with Dakota last night, and it was pretty slow. Him and I were kind of trying to find something to talk about because the markets weren't doing too much in the overnight session. I think we had a lot of chop, um,
oh,
and didn't really see much as far as opportunity goes, but it's kind of been the case over the last couple of days, right? Here's the prior overnight session, and then we get this range bound market, which this looks a lot like crude does sometimes when it gets stuck in a range. Uh, Seeing the moving averages kind of all wrapped around each other.
looks like a sobriety test on the side of the highway. Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah, I think the one thing about this range that I do like is, if we go high to low today, the range is 400 points. Yesterday, the range was 350 points. So we're not seeing that type of consolidation where we're getting, a 145-point range day where it's almost untradeable, in my opinion. We're having sometimes just two trend days in one, where we have a trend to the downside early on and then a trend back up to finish the day. And, look at the past couple of days, it's kind of rinse and repeat. Sell off into a rally, another sell off into a rally, sell off into a rally, and we did it again today. At some point, that pattern breaks, but for now, it's what it's presenting. I think the one thing about that is, uh, I think we got caught up in a little bit in the house account yesterday, trying to uh, find where the bottom of the that V bottom move was going to be. Just saying, well, it did it yesterday. Why won't it do it again today? Um, Waiting for that confirmation, I think, is important because it happens, but you could get hurt on the way down if you're not looking at it. Coach, you took a trade you told me about in the green room.
Uh, yeah, I came in wanting to buy it, but
Yep.
coming in that last time, we were higher. So I said, well, I'm going to pare down, and I looked at the 3 minute, and lo and behold, we had urgency, and it was quick. So I sold the breakout, not right at the, just a little below that,
Mhm.
um, and wrote it down to where we started last night, into last night's range, and covered in both the S&P and the Nasdaq on a
It's a great
micro
trade.
basis. Um, and that was one micro apiece, but if I didn't, it was just a scalp. I didn't get long well because I was rattled. I also was trading natural gas, and that was another one. But with that, an open like that, it was just whatever happened in Europe, um, the intensity of that. Um, I'd imagine. So the same thing happened. S and P's and Nasdaq, nice scalp, um, and I was happy. Um, look, I waited for the 200 half an hour, and
Where
I
was
bought
it?
it.
Where was it at price wise? That 200 moving average. Just pull it up. Oh, there we go. Kind of right in the middle of the range.
Yeah,
Still closing above it, but
and that's a hard buy down there on a
oh
half
yeah,
hour.
yeah it is. Yeah it is.
But I did notice we had we couldn't even it didn't even have a J trade on a half hour. I was waiting for it. Very hard day to trade. I
Mhm.
can imagine a lot of people got beat up today.
Oh yeah, for
Um,
sure.
this is a good reason to, when I say pare down or get down to 12.5 to 15% of your equity in your account and stop trading. Um, because you get caught in one of these the wrong way. Well, your first gut reaction is, I got to take another one to get that back.
Yep.
Throw everything out the window. The whole You lose your mind and you start fighting and not trading a plan, but trading your emotion. I got to get that back. I can't take that. And then you start looking at every other thing for a reason to take a trade. Um, so I hope, you know, uh, our traders put a good daily loss limit.
Yeah.
It's for days like this.
100%. 100%. Where this almost looked like a potential J trade right here, where
Yeah.
that could have been the low. Right. We had higher volume than the open. We did get a candle close above it. Immediately sold
And
off right away, right? And now if I looked at this on a different time frame, it might not look that way, right? If I was on a 5 minute chart, it might not look the same, but I have to default to the time frame that I use every day. And on the 3 minute, it was a confirmation. Now, if I bought it here and said, "Oh yeah, that's the reversal. We're back above settlement. This should be good to go," and didn't have a stop, I probably don't have an account. So not every trade setup, as clean as it might look, is going to work. So we got to manage our risk along the way. If you don't have the top step levels up on your platform on Top Step X, I'd suggest doing it. Sometimes some really great levels on the Top Step levels indicator. The one I really like, being kind of biased towards volume, is the value area low, which was down here at 20,540. And this is from yesterday. We did sell off below it, right? We sold off another 20 points, so it's not a blind buy at that level, but we can see clearly the market is making a decision around this area, and it's a value area low, right? It's making a decision about value. Do we consider this fair value still, or are we going to trade below it or above it again? Seeing that hesitation is a sign that the knife might be on the floor, and it's okay to pick it up, uh, especially around a major level based on volume. Gave us a pretty nice bounce there. I did take some longs in the Nasdaq. I was in this long here, and didn't see much of this move, right? I think this was like a 150 point bounce. Yeah, I think I took 40 points out of that, which I'm fine with. I'll take a 40-point trade every day. I'm happy I got out. Like I said, I came in with a bullish bias. It didn't hurt me too bad, which is okay on a day like this. Ideally, I would have caught this move, but sometimes trading is not ideal.
Oh, no, you didn't know that was going to happen?
No idea. Had no idea. So my thing is with looking at the equity
Wow.
markets, right? We are in this range we've been in, right? If we're looking at the last couple of days on the 30-minute chart, we're normally when I see equities or the Nasdaq in this kind of range bound activity, I'm looking for a potential strong move in either direction out of it. Uh, what's kind of throwing me off is how wide this range is. Right? Normally we're seeing consolidated ranges, right? 150 point days, and then we get that outlier 600 point day. This is a consolidation of 300 points, 400 points over the past couple of days. So I'm interested to see what that breakout when we eventually get it. Who knows when it's going to happen? I don't know. I'm not going to try to predict it, but when it happens, I'm curious to see what it looks like, because of how big this consolidation has been. Coach, would you please dumbify those terminologies that you use? What is value area low? So value area low is if we're looking at volume, it is showing based on volume the low of where the market decided fair pricing was, right? So I'll show you how that is. This is probably something we haven't talked about a lot at all, or ever really on this
Yeah.
session. So I'm going to pull up a volume profile. I'm going to change the settings for the volume profile because I usually have my value area set to 40%, but default it's set to 70. And so what this is showing here, this kind of histogram here, is showing all of the volume that was traded yesterday. The purple that you see on my screen here, and I'll change the colors here so it's a little bit cleaner. The purple area that you see, this is considered outside of value, right? Less volume traded in these areas. The white area that you see here is what's considered value, right? Where fair value, most of the volume, most of the time, the market is spending in this area here. And now value area low is just the low of this white area here, right? So anything outside of this, we're considering less volume traded in that area. So just volume profile terms, value area low is the low of this white area. Value area high is the high of the white area. And point of control is this red line here. And basically what that is the price that most of the volume traded for that session. All right. And I drew that over yesterday's ranges, right? So I'm using the fixed range volume profile drawing tool. And I just went from the beginning of the day yesterday, so from Globex open until yesterday's close. I really do like this tool because you don't have to, kind of measure out the ranges. I just click, kind of click, drag, go from time frame to time frame, and there you go.
So if you could use that today and you started from last night,
Yeah.
just
Start from last night. Click, and then do you want to go the whole session or going into the morning?
The whole session.
Whole session. So going into tomorrow, right? If we want to know where value area high is the high of this white level here, which is at 20,873. We'll call it. Point of control is going to be 20,847, and value area low is 20,673.
So in relation to tomorrow, we're going to use that to look at where and this is based on volume. So the idea is where the biggest amount volume of trade comes in, we're going to get those spikes. And if you're on the fringes of it, you're looking to buy it, like today.
Yep.
Using yesterday's, wow, that
Yeah.
purple from yesterday's, we double bottomed. It shot right back into value.
Right. So now we look at this value area, the outside of value, right? Anything outside of value, we came right. That's our demand area, right? Where buyers are stepping up here. It's kind of crazy that it wicked to right to 50% of that. But so the way, you'll hear Hogue talk about value areas. Hogue is using something called market profile. So it takes time into consideration as well. Me being a volume analyst, I'm going to look just at the volume profiles, but a lot of the same, information. And let's just go back in the week. Again, this is something we haven't talked about much, but let's look at the week, right? So value from Monday was at the lows of the session. And then if we just keep putting volume profiles on here, and if you have more questions about this, make sure you join Coach Ray's sessions in Discord. This is how Coach Ray trades every day, and with every market that he trades. So he is going to have a lot more information. I do have volume profiles up for the markets that I trade every day, but it's not something that I share because I don't teach it, right? It's something that Coach Ray does a lot better job at teaching. But if we look at Monday, so Monday we have the value high, value low, and point of control. We can see how that point of control was important for the following session, right? We almost came down to it, wicked to the point of control and bounced off of it, but stayed in value from the day prior, right? So when Hogue does his opening call, he's saying, value is overlapping, which means, and we've said it a couple of times here as well, where the market's not really choosing a direction. It's overlapping. It is slightly moving higher, and we can see that there's a couple of different ways to see that, right? We see the moving averages, Coach, that you use, kind of trending upwards, but not really breaking out. And we see the same thing here. A lot of overlap in price agreement, if you will, for this range. Anything else on that?
Nothing else for me.
Awesome. Where do we want to go from here, Coach? Not going to go to the ES chart. Looks very similar. Go ahead.
Let's go to gold.
Let's go to gold. Show you the trade I missed last night.
I could have been somebody.
I could have been somebody. Yeah, volume profiles are pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, it's a good. I use it as a good reference. And whatever you use it consistently. And when you first start, I would observe. Don't make assumptions on how to use it, but observe, and you'll find the pattern that will help you.
Agreed. Yeah, especially if it's something brand new, don't go with the expectation of putting on a volume profile tomorrow and expecting to make money from it. It's not fair to yourself. But here it is, Coach.
What is that?
That's gold. on the 30-minute chart, we'll look at the moving averages. This was a buy to me the entire time. We're above the 200 moving average, like we talked about. We got above that a couple days ago. The 20 is above the 50. Looks like we're getting some
Wow.
separation where it's trending higher, and just a really strong looking market. If I, we got our 30-minute opening range from last night, VWAP attached to it, some decent urgency. When I was thinking about this trade in slow markets last night, I said I want to get a buy somewhere near the high of the opening range. I actually put in a bid at 26.54. And the reason why I wanted to get an entry there was because, VWAP started to flatten out a little bit, which tells me I don't necessarily need to buy at VWAP. I could get a better price. Maybe I was trying to be too perfect with the price and should have just put on a couple micros. But eventually we got, Dakota and I got off of slow markets. We got exactly that entry. VWAP stayed flat and continued to, or started to become a support, and just a really nice trade all day.
What was that low on the opening?
26.51.6. 26.51.6. So the risk on that, even if I got long at the high of the range, risking the lows, it's about what, 2.5 points. Oh man, I'm gonna have to do math in my head. 2.5 points on gold with a one lot.
240.
240. That's not hard math.
Look, can you put a? No, it isn't. You're tired, my friend. It happens when you're wrestling these markets.
Right.
Let's put a volume profile on yesterday's gold range and let's observe.
Let's take a look. All right. So we have yesterday's range. Here is the start. There's the end of the day. Oh, wow. What's that low? Point of control from yesterday.
Okay. And high value, that purple.
Mm-hmm.
Once we closed above that, that was it. It was owned.
Yep.
Look at that. Wow.
Yeah. Really nice. And David Allen says our eyes are the best indicators if used correctly. I agree with that, right? Sometimes just looking at price, you can see things. The way I see it, right? 20 years ago, we were printing out MapQuest directions to figure out where we were going to go. But now we could just type an address into a GPS, any address in the world, and not have to know, right? Just kind of blindly follow directions. And that's kind of how I look at indicators, where, it's not going to give me the answer. It's telling me what I want to do and just kind of helping me identify it a little quicker. But, if all you need is your eyes to look at price, then that's great as well, right? You can see some of the patterns play out. For me, I'm a very visual learner, and just having the visual cues there help a lot for me. But yeah, here's that point of control, coach. That's amazing entry.
So let's look at the daily. We're back. I think we hit the 20-day moving average. Oh, here we go again. March. Oh, yep. Now, this is it, folks.
What are
Why?
we doing?
20-day. We trade in short term. It's what we look at. 20 hasn't crossed the 50s since when, like September. When it crossed to the upside. So why I'm really interested to get the 50 and the 20 sitting right on top of each other. Moving average, we went straight up to it. It's a longer term bull market, but feeling is if that crosses, I think the buyers are going to be are
Back in
feeling
business.
back in
Oh no.
business. Yeah, either way. um, someone it's an inflection point from what I see here. Let's put now we can put a trend line from the contract highs.
Trend line.
And go to oh well, we saw this yesterday, didn't we?
We did. We did.
Well, boy, inflection point. Um, we closed above. Well, that VWAP from the that's not from the contract highs.
This is not contract highs. This is for the month. Contract highs. We closed above that too.
Okay. Wow.
It's for the first time since we really made the high. Yeah,
Focus on gold.
I like this chart. I like it for presenting opportunity,
Yeah.
right? Because it has to make a decision right around here. And sometimes when markets have to make a decision, we get some decent moves. We'll see what happens. Of course, not going to just preempt it and say it's going this way, it's going that way, because that's me having an opinion. But if it moves, I want to be a part of it.
Put that on the scouting report.
There we go. And we got some people saying it's a bearish chart, right? Trade what
Mhm.
you see.
Mhm.
Trade what you see. I could make a potential bearish case for this as well. Um, I think seeing both directions, right, looking both ways before you cross the street, and then knowing when it's time to go is important. Because if you were like me coming into the Nasdaq today and said, "Oh, this is a bullish chart," and you just stepped out in front of the street, I don't have my soundboard queued up, but there was a Mack truck that would have came by and hit me. Right, I was stepping onto the highway. So just be aware of both sides and trade what you see. Manage your risk. Coach, we got a couple of questions in the chat that I want to get to. One from Joanna.
Mhm.
Guys, I had a 3-week winning streak, got funded, only needed 2 days more, and today, boom, lost everything. Any advice? I'm so sad.
I'll let you start, Coach.
Yep.
That's a
So
hard one.
it's a hard one. So 3-week winning streak. So you're clearly doing something right. You're seeing things well. Um, you got to the funded account. Ideally, if you had 3 weeks in a combine where you're seeing things well, you only need 2 more days to be eligible for a payout. Uh, what happens a lot of the time is we'll see traders start to the trader psychology start to change, right? Where it was, you were just trading and taking the right steps, and then it got to the point where your focus switched from process to a monetary focus, right? It's like, oh, I only need 2 more days to make money. And that might not have been the thought process that you had the entire way through, right? So that changes your decision making as well. Because now you're making monetary focused decisions instead of process focused decisions. Um, it's tough. It's tough. And that is trading. What I will say is if you ever, and this goes for anybody, if you're ever trading and you're saying, oh man, today's the day that I can pass this combine, right? Today is the day that I can be eligible for a payout if I just do this. I've seen it so many times happen with traders that those are days that they end up having a pretty bad day. Uh, just be conscious of that voice, right? Maybe slow down, trade a little bit smaller, maybe consider taking that day off if, front of your mind is a monetary focus. And it sounds crazy, but, we're trading to make money, but you don't want to have money at the front of your mind when you're trading, right? You just want to be able to make sound decisions. Um, the losing everything, I think that is a potential opportunity for improvement where you built up a balance that was close to being able to take a payout. Uh, Secure some of that with a daily loss limit, um, where I'm not sure what the balance was, but to lose it all in one day, there's potential to improve your account management, right? Where I'm not going to allow one day to ruin the entire business. Um, Anything you got to add there, Coach?
Yeah. Two things. First of all, you're doing something right.
Yep.
Okay. And disaster comes along. So reviewing, most likely, you left your process, and as coach said, you're just trading dollars. Um, one way, well, I can't say is when you come back, you have to review what's the lesson learned. And I'm just talking like, look at the positives. But what is it that blew up today? Two things, you hear me say it: personal daily loss limit, especially that close. Limit it, draw it in. We're most vulnerable at our highs. I've done that one. But when you get back, you put on a personal daily loss limit of a lot less than 50%. So you can't even, no matter what happens, you can't blow it up. Topstep X is the only platform that allows you to do that. Joanna, you're a good trader. You've done it. And by the way, this happens a lot. And
It does.
I mean a lot. So look, go back. You've done some good things. Review it. Review today, because today's the day that you need to understand. And it was, personally, I know this one was right inside you, because what happens is I can't take that fucking loss. And then, okay, for me, that's why I trade one side. But days like today, in my younger days, I'd lose a month's worth of money in a couple hours. Because like today, oh, this is going back down. I wanted to buy it in the morning. I get punched, all my teeth knocked out. Oh, I got to get short now. Now my tongue is ripped out and my eyes are hanging out. I don't. It's
It's a fight.
something that's why two ways to go back about it is trade one side, and number two is you put that personal daily loss limit, tighten it up, because where's your biggest risk now, right?
Yeah.
And we can't choose when our wins and losses come, and I think that's the trick bag, because we all the way up we were just trading a process, and now we're just trading to win, and all of a sudden,
It's
bang!
desperation.
Yeah. So feel the pain. It's painful, but through that, you get the biggest lesson. By the way, all great traders have gone through that.
Yep.
You can go look through Market Wizards. It's
Every
just
single one
like
of them.
every single one of them. So
Wh-
come back stronger.
What I will say to that as well is you're doing something really well in that, and we both said it, that 3 weeks that you didn't have a losing trade, right? 3 week winning streak. Sometimes what happens with that is we forget what losing feels like. So the first time it happens, we try to avoid that feeling so much. Um, Embrace whatever that is going to look like and just plan for it, right? It's going to happen. No one except for Delesh is going to consistently win 100 days in a row and actually be making some profits. So, plan exactly what that loss is going to look like and just accept it before you have to. But keep going. Don't give up here, and learn from the experience and keep it up. Uh, any other markets? Let's see if we got any other questions we can answer. Coach, do you use pivot points? That one's for you. I don't personally.
Yes, I use a daily pivot point. I don't. I just use it as reference.
Mm,
On a day trade, and for day trading, um, here's the formula. You take the daily high, low, close, add them up, divide by 3. Um, and then it will give you a pivot, the middle, a pivot point, and a resistance and a support. And it's dynamic in that because that summation changes the pivot where, like here in gold, bring that gold up. We had a pivot of 45. We put a line, and I use the half hour. So right there, let's put it 45.
Got you there. 44.9, close enough.
Yeah, good enough for government work. So when we opened up last night, I'd like to know, are we above the pivot? It's usually friendly. And we're holding the pivot. And then it's got a good chance of continuing. If it was below the pivot, it's got work to do. In a bullish market, that pivot should hold. It should continue to hold. Now, I know a lot of traders who use it just for that. Give it a bias. They'll try to buy it above the pivot, sell it below it. I like to be aware of it in the markets I'm trading. Gold was a perfect example. While it didn't hit it, what do we know? It's
Stayed above it.
it stayed above it, and it increases the probabilities that it's going to hit the first resistance level. First resistance level was 2666.
2666. Let's put a line there. There we go. Keep being a
And
tick off.
yeah, and then go through to the next resistance level of 2681. Now, from a distribution point of view, on a day trade, if you buy it above the pivot and you get to the first resistance, it's about what the most you can expect.
Mm.
Um, if you're really aggressive, looking for to go to the next level, but it rarely goes to the third resistance. It's like a Six Sigma move, but on average, well, because of the dynamic nature of the pivot, it takes the previous day's range in consideration, not just the high and low, but and the close. And it's actually was used. It's been a while. It's another Wells Wilder. Um, if you don't know who Wells Wilder, I would say he is the god godfather of modern day technical analysis. Um, but that's how it's used. I put those out on the daily levels. What you could do is start observing for yourself, but the principle is are we above it, below it? If we're above it and it's moving up, it's got a very good probability of getting to the first resistance.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Coach. And we'll try to focus a little bit more on some of these different technical ways to look at the market. Again, these are all just ways to analyze price at the end of the day, and never hey pivot points are your answer. Volume is the answer to everything. VWAP is the answer to everything because nothing is the answer to everything. But if you guys have questions about different strategies and we know about them, ask, right? That's why we're here. I'll give you the amount of knowledge that I have on it, and Coach Paul will do the same. He has a lot more than me about certain things. But, ask the questions. That's why we're here. Most important, manage your risk. Any other markets we want to discuss? We didn't go over crude oil.
Natural
Actually,
gas.
yeah, let's go nat
Let's
gas.
go over.
Crude was boring.
I mean,
Let's
we
go
got
nat gas.
some time. Well, it was yeah. Okay.
We'll
Some
go over
type of
crude.
energy. We'll go over crude, but natural gas was much more dramatic. Let's look at the daily to start.
All right. Here is the daily. Got your moving averages up there, Coach. It's that white line there.
Yes. Now, that daily is for the new viewers. There's a difference between a regular chart and a continuation chart. In the energies and in the grains, in commodities in general that aren't just quarterly rolls. What I mean by rolls, if in the natural gas, there is volume going out 5 years every month. It doesn't expire quarterly. So over time, when it transfers from one month to another, there can be a big difference in price at expiration. The seasonality, without dragging you down to some boring level, we don't have a non combined continuation chart. My non-combined, the high of the day was the 200 moving average. But let's say you're using that chart. What happened yesterday on the close?
Close right above that 200 moving average.
All right. And it's so the fact that it did, looking to buy it. So then we can start last night. And I start with the half an hour.
Here we are. First half hour last night.
And let's see, we'll put a VWAP on that. Now remember, what side do you want to take? It settled over the daily 200. And it was the biggest mover of the day. I think it was up 7% at one time,
It was.
6.5%.
Yep, 1.77, almost seven and a half.
What was that? That was about. That's a huge move. That's like monetary wise. Every tick is $10 on the big one. We were up. Here, I can tell
bucks.
you. Yeah. Here from yesterday.
I want to say 3,500, but that sounds wrong.
That's just about it. I'm getting it now. Okay.
While you get that, Coach, Walter Rivas reminded us that likes are free. You guys haven't sent one in yet. The likes are free. Go ahead, Coach.
Okay, where it was yeah. Okay, that was a move on the big contract of almost $3,000 on a one lot. It was a big move. So anyway, we got on the opening the highest volume. We made the high. Frame out that half an hour from last night.
Yep. Here's last night. volume, price left, and that was it.
Now, with that said, overnight, so something to me is going on in Europe. Oh, there's a war going on, natural gas pipelines. Part of, some people say that part of the reason we have a war in Ukraine. Russia is largest supplier of natural gas in Europe. So those headlines affect more than U.S. This is a worldwide commodities. So when you're trading commodities, they're worldwide. If you know what happened, crude oil doesn't stop. It's always
Right.
trading. Even during COVID, it trades at negative numbers. It's trading all the
Mhm.
time. Saturday, Sunday. So anyway, that huge move. You got it on both sides.
Yeah,
If you
really.
frame up the open, that's the 8 to 8:30 Central Time. Candle,
It's where it stalled out.
that's where it
Man, this is a
stalled
nice
out.
trade.
Yeah,
Less of a fight than the equities too.
a hell of a lot. Now I had to fight it because I did buy a mini last night,
Okay.
and while I was fighting the bear in the equities, I sold the my short, but I sold it with a large contract.
Oh,
Yeah, 4 times the size. So, but I fought my way through it.
there you go.
Um,
Heard you made a
yeah,
recovery.
I made a recovery. But if you're trading, give me this. I'll do this again. If you're entering in a micro or a mini, get out with that double check. I thought I was doing it. These are things that, in our trading plan, errors happen. They're going to happen more than we would like. So when you're in a hurry, it's worth
Oh,
having a double check.
coach, you just turned into a robot.
I don't know. I did.
Yeah, it was like it was like a
How about
like a
now?
it was like a movie where you're giving us like an amazing uh amazing advice and being like dragged into the void at the same time. Um, I don't know what just happened. If you want to try reconnecting, um,
All right.
try reconnecting. Not sure what just happened.
Promise I won't do the.
Coach Paul will be back. That was pretty funny. All right, so what do we talk about now? Micro Bitcoin. I'm gonna pull up Micro Bitcoin while Coach is out. We got to update our charts. And where is it? Did we move it? Where did it go? Put it back on here. We're close. So spot Bitcoin price, the last I checked, was at 98,033. See your back, Coach. Let's get a sound check.
Hey, check.
No, it's still broken.
Do I sound like a robot still?
Yeah, I don't know what just happened. Hold on one second. You were giving out too much sauce, Coach. They had to try to take you out.
I mentioned Russia.
There you go. You're back. You're back now.
Okay, I have my tin hat on. All right. Oh, what is this? Micro Bitcoin. But in the natural gas, I just want to tell you, you can get, when you're in a hurry, I strongly recommend to have every order checked. What
Yep.
does it take? 5 seconds? I was guilty of just, oh, yeah. I put the order in. I didn't double check, and I usually do. but it's a good piece of advice. There's nothing wrong with checking. Slow it down, because that's why if you're going to be trading micros, just trade micros. Don't try and do both.
Agreed. Dan Trader says Zet Schmo had a good question. Here's the micro Bitcoin chart. It's just going up. We're close to 100,000 on this futures contract. High was 99,580. Again, spot Bitcoin. The last price I checked was at 98.33. Just every day we just keep updating this rocket and it just keeps going higher. Not much to say there.
No,
Find a place to try to buy it. It's like that gold rally, coach, where it was slight pullbacks and those were opportunities to buy, not really to sell.
yeah, I might start doing pivot points for Bitcoin. It's on the half an hour, the 50. It's been holding that 50 pretty well. That's where it's correcting to. It really,
Yep.
but I mean, it seems like on a mission to get to 100,000.
Mm.
Maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's one of those things like a lot of us when we're in a combine or when we're looking to get paid. It might get there 5 ticks and then fall off. I don't know, but my bias is to own it. There's, I mean, I think,
Up and to the right.
we've been on this one for a while. It's a trend till it isn't. Very interesting. I watched this. I thought I was going to do it last night.
Yeah.
The futures, by the way, if you're trading micro Bitcoin, keep an eye after tomorrow's Friday already.
Weeks go by quick.
Wow.
Yeah, weeks go by like days, it feels like.
The expiration, it's going to start to roll. Be careful. You do not want to get caught in Bitcoin on expiration day. I've done that.
Yeah.
So onward and upwards to the moon, maybe to Mars. But
Let's
really,
we got a couple more questions here. We are at time, but I think we're going to go a little bit over because we got some pretty good questions here. Zet, thank you for reposting that question. I'm just going to go through what we had real quick in the chat. Quick kind of rapid fire. Dave Stowe asks, how do you look at VWAPs to see that it's become a support or resistance point, confluence with market structure? If I'm trading VWAP and I'm looking at it as a potential for an entry, the only time I'm ever looking to trade at VWAP is if it's at a very steep angle, right? It'd have to be a 45-degree angle plus for me to want to take a trade, because an angled VWAP is telling me that the market is strong directionally. If it's flat, I don't want any of my trade entries to be anywhere near VWAP, because flat VWAP tells me the market is in a range. And if I trade in the middle of that range, it's more of a 50-50 trade. So I want to trade any extensions from it. We got one for you, Coach Paul. When you were trading on the floor, did you have a mental stop? How did you control your losses, or was there no loss limits?
Very good question. No, I didn't.
No stops.
Um,
Do it
and that
live.
I had to learn the hard way. Now, with that, you the a lot of the trades on the pit were what we call matching trades. I know I can lean on this bid because their papers got a big bid here at 5. So they would ever want to buy 500. So I can pay 5 or try to buy 5s in front of them, or pay 6 knowing that they're 5 bid, and if I need to get out, it costs me a tick. If they start paying up, I can offer 7s. That was the biggest part of why that was the edge in the pit. Now, I would do some other trades too, where I go, I like this, and I didn't. I just liked it, wanted to own it. I'll buy a few because get out when you couldn't take the heat anymore.
Got you.
Yeah, I highly recommend not doing that,
Yeah,
especially
have a
here. There's
stop.
I'll tell you this, you would develop your program or your system for your edge here, but in a traditional um idea of scalping, there's no edge here. Whether you working the bid, there's a computer that got there before you did.
Right.
So it's in it's it's not only different now, it's imperative that you have a stop or have a risk management, because that's why we have to have a program to follow. No one's coming in here and tapping on our computers going, "Hey, I'll sell you 50 at 5 and it's 6 bid."
Right.
Um,
Your edge is your risk management.
yeah.
Your edge is your risk management. Couple more questions. Let's get to Zet's question. Question: if a profitable trader were to teach their strategy with fixed rules and entry exit criteria, could someone sticking to the criteria find success, or is it always going to be speculative? So, if a profitable trader says, "Here's my strategy, only do this," could someone who's only sticking to that strategy be successful? So, it's really interesting question, right? Because I want to say yes if that's all that you're doing, right? If I'm coaching someone, I'm only going to give them the blueprint for the good stuff. Dakota and I talked about this a lot, actually. Um, in the green room before slow markets a couple of times. Um, the balance between showing what we want you to do and what we do, right? Sometimes what I coach someone to do is not what I always do myself, right? So I think if I'm giving someone a strategy, I'm only going to give them the cleanest examples of it, right? Where, hey, ignore all of this mess. These are the only trades that you should take. And ideally, I'm giving you the highest probability. Now, there's going to be risk management involved in that. There's going to be where trade entry should be. It's difficult to do, but I think someone can see success in it. I mean, on a smaller scale, we've seen traders coach say, some of the strategies that we've talked about here, where we're not even really giving one-on-one advice, we're just kind of giving broad information about the markets. We've seen traders take that information and say, hey, I've passed the combine, I've been able to make money in my XFA and XYZ. So I think it's possible. Um, is it probable that someone sticks, you know, to a T to the rules that are given? Emotion and different human psychology is always going to be a factor for me. It's a tough question. Go ahead, coach. What do you think?
It's a nature versus nurture.
Mhm.
Um, the turtle experiment, the famous turtle experiment, trading places. Um, I can give if you would have to follow the rules of the system, and that's the crux of the question.
Yep.
Can you? In the turtle experiment, Richard Dennis said, I could give everyone these rules. Could they execute it? Well, his rules, there was a lot of heat.
Mm.
I mean,
Yeah.
and you
Right.
had but when you were right, man, you ate like an elephant. So I mean, the difference between that, the difference between gambling and speculation is measuring risk. All right. Um, so in that strategy, the hierarchy starts with risk management, um, because you don't know where you're going to start in that strategy. You know what I mean? You don't know if it's going to have a series of losses right away.
Right.
And if it's a volatile strategy, You just don't know. Are you going to be able to take 5 losses? And if you do, can you manage the equity in the account? That's the difference. Um, so I think, yeah, I think it can be done,
Mhm.
but all humans are different. What we found out was some of those turtle traders adjusted, and they're some of the biggest managers in the futures industry
Mm.
right now. So, yeah, you can. Okay, here's the biggest problem with systems or trading plans is following them.
Right. And that goes for the person who writes the plan.
Yeah, right.
That goes for the
Well, you
person who
see
writes the
this all
plan.
the time. I find it hard of mine to keep taking losses. We haven't mentioned the interest rates, bonds, and the interest rates are um, cutting me up a thousand different ways.
Right.
Can I, so the point is, okay, either I'm going to do it or I'm not. I'm either going to follow the plan or I'm not. And that's the biggest thing. And that's why it's hard to do.
100%. David Allen, like recipes, one wrong ingredient. Depends. If you're baking, you might get a pile of mush. But sometimes with cooking, it's more of an art. I think trading is more like cooking than baking, where it's not an exact science. There was a question. We'll end on this. Um, what are the changes to Top Step accounts? So I'm going to read this. You should have gotten an email on it as well. But starting today, we're making changes for all live funded traders. Live funded traders cannot trade express funded accounts at the same time as a live account. If you have a live account, you will be unable to activate and start any new express funded accounts. You may continue to trade in any active XFA, but they may be called up to your live account. Any trading combines that are passed will be placed on hold and will not be eligible for XFA activation. And you can still test strategies and practice in the trading combine and practice accounts. So those are the changes. For right now, those are just affecting our live traders. Um, of course, Coach, if you, I don't think you're on Twitter, but you see the reaction on Twitter, and it is uh, prop space Twitter is going crazy right now over the changes. I always think change is good. Change is necessary, but change also is always met with some hesitation and reluctance. We're like, whoa, why is this happening? Um, First thing I'll say is, think about that point when you get there, right? A lot of people are just like, whoa, they're changing the rules for live accounts, and you're still in a combine, um, right? So it doesn't even apply to you right away. And the changes are being made in the interest of things improving um, over the course of the next couple months, over the course of a year, over 5 years. Uh, Things are only going to get better. And sometimes when things change initially, it's just like, oh, that's gross. Then you get used to it and you understand why the change was made. So I'll say that. Um, Top Step is usually going to be the first to kind of innovate on certain things. And sometimes we're not, right? The copy trading, the multiple account thing, we kind of caught up to the industry with that one. But if you listen to MP Talk, that was never the goal, right? The goal was to eventually get traders into live accounts. And that's what we're getting back to. And I think ultimately that is where everyone should want to get to. Um, so that's the change for now. Maybe some more potential changes coming up in the future, but who knows? TopStep is always thinking about how to move the industry forward, and that's why I love being here, kind of being a part of these conversations and seeing how things change. Uh, but that is the change.
And change brings opportunity.
Absolutely.
So, um, the only thing that doesn't change is death. So, um, I like the idea myself. Um, you want to get to the live.
Yep.
That's where you make the most money. That's where you're a trader.
And the common question, and we had this conversation in Slack. Just know that this conversation is being all the questions that you guys have. What are the benefits to having a live account? Right. That's a common question that most people are going to ask. It's on Twitter, so I'm not the first one to say that, right? And clearly, that's what people are thinking. What are the benefits? Just stay tuned. Just stay tuned. People are listening, and the great thing about change is when you see an opportunity, you can implement changes right away. Just stay tuned. Um, there is a benefit right now. There's a benefit. You can adjust your risk parameters with a conversation with the risk management team. You can't do that in an XFA, right? And again, this is a small subset of traders right now at Topstep in live accounts. But if your goal is to get to a live account, you want to understand what you're striving for. With the changes that are potentially going to come, you're going to want to be in a live account. I'm going to end it with that.
Wow.
Coach, you got anything before we go?
Nothing more than that.
Have a great one. Shout out to MP
All
if you're
right.
watching this. Continue to push the industry forward. Thanks, everyone.
Ditto.
Have a great
Bye.
night. Bye.